Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming on this hot, humid August day. And we are now on habit number 6 of our 7 habits. And habit number 6 is synergy, the principles of creative cooperation. Paul in 1 Corinthians 13:13 tells us, "And now abide faith, hope, love, these 3, but the greatest of these is love." We're going to start with our review of the previous habits so we can launch into our 6th habit. Habit number 1 says that you are the creator. You are in charge. It empowers us to say to ourselves, that's an unhealthy paradigm I've been given from my childhood, from my social mirror. I don't like that ineffective script. I can change. Habit number 2 is the first or mental creation. It is beginning with the end in mind. It is based on imagination, the ability to envision, to see the potential, to create with our mind what we cannot at present see with our eyes. It is the deep contact with our spiritual paradigm of the great work and the vision of what we can become by harmonizing our lives with the divine law. Living habit 3 is the second or physical creation in our lives. It's the fulfillment and actualization of habits 1 and 2 in our own personal life. It's the exercise of our independent will towards becoming principle-centered. It is the day in, day out, minute by minute, hour by hour, doing it. It is living the divine law. It is the great work in action. The next 3 habits deal with our interactions with others. Habit 4 tells us to interact with our fellow human beings with a win-win paradigm. The law is always attempt to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Win-win is not a personality technique. It's a philosophy of human interaction. It is born out of the golden rule and is built upon the character of integrity, maturity, graciousness, and the law of plenty. It then grows out of high trust relationships. Win-win is self-perpetuating in that we can set the example and demonstrate to others that approaching life with a win-win paradigm gets them more of what they want. Habit 5 is the principle of seek first to understand, then be understood. As communication is one of the most important skills in life, it is the key to effective communication. Habit 6 is the habit of synergy, as Mr. Covey calls it. It is the essence of principle-centered leadership. Synergy is the true test and manifestation of all the other habits put together. Synergy focuses on the 4 unique human endowments, the motive of win-win, and the skills of empathic communication on the toughest challenges we face in life. The result of synergy is the creation of new alternatives, something that was not there before. The result of synergy is the creation of new alternatives, something that was not there before. What is synergy? Synergy is creation. Simply defined, it is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It means that the relationship which the parts have to each other is a part in and of itself. It's not only a part, but the most catalytic, the most empowering, the most unifying, and the most exciting part. Now, synergy is everywhere in nature. If you plant 2 plants close together, the roots commingle and improve the quality of the soil so that both plants grow better than if they were separated. If you put 2 pieces of wood together, they will hold much more than the total weight held by each separately. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. With the principle of creative cooperation, 1 + 1 = 3 or more. Ineffective people live day after day with unused potential. They experience synergy in only small peripheral ways in their lives. Most of all creative endeavors are somewhat unpredictable. They often seem ambiguous, hit or miss, trial and error. And unless people have a high tolerance for ambiguity and get their security from integrity to principles and inner values, they find it unnerving and unpleasant to be involved in highly creative enterprises. Ineffective people have too high a need for certainty and predictability. However, once people have experienced real synergy, they are never quite the same again. They know the possibility of having such mind-expanding adventures in the future. Often we then try to recreate a particular synergistic experience, but this seldom can be done. However, the essential purpose behind the creative work can be recaptured. We seek not to imitate past creative synergistic experiences. Rather, we seek new ones around new and different and higher purposes. Synergy involves levels of communication. When you interact with another individual or group of people, when you communicate synergistically, you are simply being open to new possibilities, new alternatives, new options. By beginning with the paradigm that all parties involved will gain more insight, and the excitement of that mutual learning and insight will create a momentum toward more and more insights, learning, and growth, you are fulfilling habit 2, beginning with the end in mind. The end being an internal knowing that this new interaction, the end result, will be better than it is now, that 1 + 1 will equal 3 or more. Now, trust and cooperation are the two elements that create the levels of communication that we utilize in our interactions with others. The lowest level of communication occurs when there is low trust and low cooperation between the individuals involved, and can be defined as the defensive communication, the win-lose or the lose-win scenarios. The middle level is respectful communication. This is the level where fairly mature people interact. They have respect for each other, but they want to avoid the possibility of ugly confrontation, so they communicate politely but not empathetically. Respectful communication is the compromise scenario. Compromise means that 1 + 1 usually equals 1.5. Both give and take, and the communication isn't defensive or protective or angry or manipulative. It is honest and genuine and respectful, but it is not creative or synergistic. It is the lowest form of win-win. It is the good, but not the best. The highest level of communication is synergistic communication. This occurs when trust is high and cooperation is high. It is the win-win scenario. The synergistic position of high trust produces solutions better than any originally proposed, and all parties know it. There are some circumstances in which synergy is attempted but falls short, and no deal is not viable. Thus, mid-level compromise becomes the fallback position, but even in these circumstances, the spirit of sincerely trying will usually result in more effective compromise. Now, the essence of synergy is to value differences. I repeat, the essence of synergy is to value differences, to respect them, to build on strengths, to compensate for weaknesses. Benjamin Franklin told it this way: if we are all thinking alike, then no one is thinking. Mr. Covey says if two people have the same opinion, one is unnecessary. Each individual who incarnates into this world brings certain unique potentials that are not duplicated by any other soul. Just as no two leaves or snowflakes are exactly alike, so God did not produce two identical souls. Each one has a special and individual uniqueness. The person who is truly effective has the humility and reverence to recognize their own perceptual limitations and to appreciate the rich resources available through the interaction in the hearts and minds of other human beings. That person values the differences because those differences add to their knowledge, to their understanding of life and reality. When we're left to our own experiences only, we constantly suffer from a shortage of data. Mr. Covey asks, is it logical that two people can disagree and that both can be right? He answers with, it's not logical, it's psychological, and it's very real. Unless we value the differences in our perceptions, unless we value each other and give credence to the possibility that we're both right, that life is not always a dichotomous either-or paradigm, that there are almost always third alternatives, we will never be able to transcend the limits of the conditioning of our carnal lower selves. True synergy can never be manifested in criticism or condemnation, never in snobbery or scathing sarcasm, never in passing judgment or finding fault with others, but forever and always, true synergy is manifested in giving the helping hand, with a heart so full of love that the humbleness of the humble may feel its radiations and be convinced of its genuineness. So when we become aware of the differences in our perception from that of another, we can now say, good, you see it differently. Help me see what you see. The attitude expressed here can be stated as follows. If a person of your competence, commitment, and integrity disagrees with me, then there must be something to your disagreement that I don't understand, and I need to understand it. You have a perspective, a frame of reference I need to look at. Now, you don't have to agree with them, but you continue to seek to understand. Although you cannot control the paradigms and actions of others, a great deal of synergy is within our control and our circle of influence. To start, our own internal synergy is completely within our own control. We can respect both sides of our own nature, the analytical side and the creative side. When a person has access to both the intuitive, creative, and visual right brain, and the analytical, logical, and verbal left brain, then the whole brain is working. In other words, there is psychic synergy taking place in our own head. We can value the differences between the analytical and the creative side of our brain, and then harmonize and harness them to catalyze creativity in our own life. Furthermore, you can synergize within yourself even in the midst of an adversarial environment. You don't have to take insults personally. You can sidestep negative energy. You can look for the good in others and utilize that good, as different as it may be, to improve your point of view and enlarge your perspective. In conclusion, individuals who interact with synergy and co-creativity have built a high emotional bank account with others, encourage high trust and high cooperation. They think win-win, and they believe in a third alternative, a solution that is mutually beneficial and is better than what either of them originally proposed. Because they listen empathically and seek first to understand, they create within themselves and between them a comprehensive picture of their values and the concerns that need to be taken into account in making a decision. When you only see alternatives, yours and the wrong one, you can look for a synergistic third alternative. There almost always is a third alternative, and if you work with a win-win philosophy and really seek to understand, you usually can find a solution that will be better for everyone concerned. Synergy is the crowning achievement of all the previous habits. It is effectiveness in an interdependent reality. It is teamwork, team building, and the development of unity and creativity with other human beings. It is our interactions with others that rubs away and polishes our rough edges, thus creating soul growth and spiritual advancement. Let us use Mr. Covey's sixth habit, the principles of creative cooperation, toward the advancement of our soul selves and the betterment of humanity. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Trudy.
Being entangled of the meshes of the intellect sometimes gets in the way of this synergy effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Untangle yourself. One way to untangle the meshes of the intellect is to try to incorporate the principles of love as best that you can in your life and interacting with others, and that will tend to dissolve away the fault-finding and criticalness that the intellect will have.
I was thinking of it from a historical point of view, and I was thinking of it, my gosh, that's how this country got started.
Yes.
Where the people were gathered in Philadelphia, and that's just what they did.
They didn't always agree, but they worked together.
That's
yes.
Right.
Yes.
They used the disagreement to make a better wall.
That's a wonderful historic analogy. I'll incorporate that next time. Thanks, Joanne. All right. Okay. Now here's an example of synergistic communication. Where is God? A couple had two little boys ages 8 and 10 who were excessively mischievous. They were always getting into trouble, and their parents knew that if any mischief occurred in their town, their sons would get the blame. The boy's mother heard that a clergyman in town had been successful in disciplining children, so she asked if he could speak with her boys. The clergyman agreed and asked to see them individually. So the mother sent her 8-year-old first, in the morning, with the older boy to see the clergyman in the afternoon. The clergyman, a huge man with a booming voice, sat the younger boy down and asked him sternly, "Where is God?" The boy's mouth dropped open, but he made no response. Sitting there with his mouth hanging open, the clergyman repeated the question, "Where is God?" Again, the boy made no attempt to answer. So the clergyman raised his voice some more and shook his finger at the boy's face and bellowed, "Where is God?" The boy screamed and bolted home from the room. He ran directly home and dove into his closet, slamming the door behind him. When his older brother found him in the closet, he asked, "What happened?" The younger brother, gasping for breath, replied, "We are in big trouble this time. God is missing and they think we did it." All rise for the benediction, please. May the divine consciousness shine upon us and overshadow us as we leave the portals of this temple today. May the divine light within us shine ever so much brighter, becoming indeed and in truth a lamp unto our feet and a beacon in the darkness for all those who are groping for the light. Amen, amen, amen. Peace be with you.